and he's really silent because remember, he's the one who told me I'm going to go blind, right? So he says, so I don't know what means. And so I go, is everything okay? So he,
Temple, how did you find carnivore?
a series of diets. I'm not that different than any of your other guests. I think that we all went through a series of trying to get healthier, trying to stay slim, or trying fad diets. Myself, I can tell you that this time around, carnivore is actually, to me, and this is only my perception of what carnivore was or is to me, was years ago, 1993, 1994 to be exact, was, and I think you remember Dr. Atkins. So I did that diet along with more than 40, probably at that time about 30 others, before I ever got to Dr. Atkins. And I thought that Dr. Atkins worked very well for me. The only problem with it was I let the outside influences get to me. And everyone said, oh, you're going to kill yourself and it's too high fat and it's this and it's that and the other thing. But it actually worked very well for me. And then shortly after that, Dr. Atkins, that one diet, I stumbled upon Eat Right for Your Body Type, which my body type, my blood type, I'm sorry. My blood type is O. I'm a hunter and a gatherer. And at that point, I said, oh, well, I'm the doctor, I'm the best patient that he could ever have. Again, I let the outside noise get to me and then I stopped doing it and I went back to eating normally. So to answer your question in a word, I wanted to feel like I did in the 90s when I was with Dr. Atkins. And I pivoted back around after trying perhaps 20. After Dr. Atkins, I tried about another 20 after that. And then in the middle of the night, one night, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and Dr. Kimberry came up in my feed. Um, there was a video of you as well, and I thought, well, who are these people and what are they talking about? And then I learned it was what I had done, 20 years ago. And it was an easy thing for me to come right back to square one. Um, and that's what gets me here.
Right. And how long ago was that when you discovered the Canberra video?
That was the weekend that my husband was away because he's a very good cook and he's a he eats everything. And so I knew that I could not do carnivore with him in town. So he left. I dropped him off at the airport. I dropped him off at the airport August 4th, 2022. He had bacon, eggs, sausage, bacon, eggs, and sausage, and lots of butter in the fridge back there. And I ate it, and like Dr. Berry says, eat until you're comfortably stuffed. Well, that's all I needed to hear, and it was all over but the shouting. Right after I ate until I was comfortably stuffed, I made a beeline to the bathroom and I finished watching that video, and I've just been in so far down the rabbit's hole. I listen, I watch, I join groups, and I'm so psyched about this carnivore lifestyle. It, it's not to me. It's not a diet at all. It's the way that I live, the way that I think that most people should live. But what Dr. Chafee said once that I fully agree with was that vegetables are trying to kill me. Vegetables are trying to kill me. And once I got that and I learned as much as I can, and I'm constantly learning um, how to keep keep feeling as well as I do. From the age of maybe 6 or 7 years old, I would get tonsillitis every 6 months as a rule. And because we didn't know any better, my mom always took me to get antibiotics. So from a child, I'd always been taking drugs. Um, and then I had massive migraines always. But the funny thing about all of it is the the thing that makes me feel the best is to eat this way. And that is why I won't go back to eating vegetables. And I know that I came to carnivore late in life. Um, Again, thank God that I did finally wake up and decide to eat carnivore for my health. And when I saw your question, has anything miraculous happened to you? I answered you right away for the simple reason that February 26th, I was at my doctor's office, my ophthalmologist's office, and in 2019, he diagnosed that I still am going to be treated for glaucoma, and I will have to be on medication for the rest of my life, or I'm going to go blind. And that was the wake up call in 2019. As we sat there in 2019, that's the most dreadful diagnosis that one could ever have. I love to read. And when I did start having problems with my vision, I started to listening to books. Hence, I found you and other interviews that I could listen to because I couldn't see very well. In 2019, when he said, "You're going to go blind. You're going to go blind." Who's he talking to? He's not talking to me. And I left there just so disappointed that medicine can't help. He said I'm going to go blind. Well, fast forward um, 2019, I started to fasting. That's what I found before I found carnivore. I actually found fasting as a result of Thanksgiving Day pictures, and I had no idea I was as inflamed and unhealthy as I was until that picture. It was my aha moment. From there, I again on YouTube, I because I'd already been diagnosed with glaucoma and my vision was already going badly in 2011. I've been treated for glaucoma since 2011. So at that point that I saw the Thanksgiving Day pictures, I thought, well, wow, I look so unhealthy. And then I thought, well, let me go online. And I found this older gentleman. Well, I'm his age now, but he was older back then. And I thought, oh, what's he talking about? And his name was Butter Bob, and butter makes your pants fall off. You've heard of him? Okay. So he's no longer around, but I followed him for the longest time. And if you had ever seen any of his videos, you would key in on some of the things that he said about insulin, which makes perfect sense. And if it's the insulin that we need to get down and get under control, I'm all about that. So I started to fasting in 2016. However, I kept the veggies and I lots of veggies, and I kept the coffee and the tea, um, butter still, and the seed oils. I forgot. I need to tell you about that. So once I learned about those things that were harmful, I immediately started to withdraw from them. Um, and I remember that one picture was what changed it all for me, that I can't live like this anymore. And again, I was in my 50s then. Fast forward to my 60s, and now we're in a retirement community. So I see people in their 70s and in their 80s, and I don't want that for myself. I don't.
Right. So you discovered fasting, and then you get this. So you get the diagnosis of glaucoma, then you get a diagnosis that things are getting worse. You're going to go blind. You discover fasting, then you move on to find carnivore. Like, what is the status of things now?
The February 26th. So I'm in his office, and before he walked in, I was looking at a video or something, and I still had the phone in my hand. Oh, I know what it was. I like to take pictures before he comes in. So I like to take pictures of his equipment and how I'm looking behind, and so that I could later say, okay, on this particular date, this is what happened. So I left the phone on record totally by accident. And as I'm holding the phone, he's talking. So I turn and I am recording him. And I ask him about my measurements and how am I doing. And he's really silent because remember, he's the one who told me I'm going to go blind, right? So he says, so I don't know what means. And so I go, is everything okay? And he gives me my measurements. And he goes, it's 13 in the left eye and 14 in the right eye. When I started with him in 2019, I was over 30 in both eyes. And now that's not even half. I'm less than half. And that's on the upside because there's actually two measurements, as he and I both knew, that there are the way that they give you the true measurements, and this is the higher of the two. So he's there and I'm looking at him, didn't know he was recording. And then he comes over and he wants to look directly into, to give me to look behind to see what's going on in the back. And we're still recording. And I said, we've never been that low, right? So he goes, yes. He says, what are you doing? Did you change your diet? And so I says, yes, since 2019, I've been fasting, and since 2022. And then he looks back over and he sees where 2022, everything really started to escalate. And he throws his hands up as he pulls the chair closer so that we can look at each other. And I said, we've never been that low, have we? And he goes, no. And he throws his hands up and he goes, I don't know what's going on. Did you change your diet? What's going on? It just seems to me like you're pushing the boat. And I went, I am, aren't I? And he looked behind and he said, everything is fine. Everything is fine. And then when I came home, I looked at my notes and I saw all his notes were years and years and years, because I've been with him since 2019. Each time he had to say, the patient is getting better. The patient is getting better. I can't predict how long we will be on medication. The patient is getting better each and every time I went. And I was going to him every 3 months, then every 4 months, and now it's every 6 months. And I'm just so I'm so psyched about this whole improvement. It's almost as if my eyes are curing themselves.
And so for the numbers coming down, that means the glaucoma is improving.
Yes, the lower the numbers, the better the pressure. For example, everyone knows, what are we, 120 over 80 is normal
Right,
for blood pressure.
right.
Okay, 120 over 80. So for eye pressure, normal people are somewhere between 10, maybe 15, and 15 would be high for normal people. But I have glaucoma disease. I have the disease. Um, and so when I first went to him and I'm in the 30s, now I'm in the low teens, that's phenomenal. And like he said, you seem to be pushing the boat.
So, he said to change your diet. So is he kind of like is the fact that you're able to control this with diet, it's not a surprise for him then if he asked you about it?
When it first started happening in 2022, we discussed it. What are you doing differently? And then he asked again to remember they're seeing 50 patients a day or however many that they're seeing. So I would obviously get lost and he wouldn't remember, certain things. So I could understand he doesn't remember he and I speaking about me changing my diet in 2019. And he certainly doesn't remember that he told me I was going to go blind. I remind him though, right? And the other thing that of course, I said it before that we live in a retirement community, um, that I go to see my dentist and I had periodontal disease and some of the pockets in the back were quite deep. I started Carnivore in 2022 and I had a very deep pocket where there's a crown. And the dentist walks in and she goes, "What are you doing differently? You look different. You look different." She always says that. "Oh, you cut your hair." Uh-huh. Well, let's talk about these deep pockets that aren't so deep anymore. So I had a measurement of a really deep, like a number 8 or something that went down to a 6, then it went down to a 5, and we're standing still at a 5. And I guarantee you, when I go back, we won't be talking about fives anymore. Everything else is better because my gums seem to be growing themselves back, and I'm very, very proud of that as well.
Right. That's awesome. So vision's coming back, gums are improving,
Yes,
um, and this has been a journey of just the carnivore part of the journey. It's only been 2.5 years, and you've already been
only
able
two and
to
a half
improve these
years.
things. Um, so, have you noticed anything else in as far as are you sleeping better? Or have you lost weight? Have you built muscle? Any of these things?
All of those things, all of those things. What what happened in my coming to carnivore was I was already keto and then I was fasting. However, I still had lots of inflammation and lots of body fat. And my clothing, um, after maybe the first year or so, after my clothing, I just got to a certain point, but I was still inflamed and I could still see pictures, even though I'm doing an 18-hour fast, a 20-hour fast, a 24-hour fast. Um, I was still a little bit afraid to go to alternate day fasting. What I learned in my rabbit's hole was that because I was so insulin resistant, I would need more fasting and or to change the way that I was eating. And those are the things that I did in fact learn, that my natural progression after um, after giving up coffee, after giving up tea, after giving up sugar was, wait a minute, I'm still eating vegetables, I'm still not eating enough fat, and those were the things that had to be corrected before I could lose body fat, look better in my clothes. I'm down maybe 6 sizes, and every month I just bought the same pair of jeans that I bought last month, and they're already too big. So and it happens when I'm very, very strict carnivore. Like Saturday when we went out to dinner, my girlfriend and we had a kale salad. Yes, I'm going to get sick. And I already know that I'm going to get sick because I don't eat that way. Um, so long story short is everybody who listen, I'll tell them about carnivore. My girlfriend, my best friend, she came to me and she says, "Hey, I want to try that fasting thing that you're doing because I see that you're looking well and blah blah blah." So I said, "There's another component to just you just can't not eat. Well, you can, but there's another component that I learned. It's not just about the fast, and you can't out fast a bad diet, as we all know." So I told her, if you really want that bursitis to go away, I suggest that you start carnivore. So we had a gentleman's agreement, and I said, I guarantee you on a Monday morning, if you start today, that by next Friday, when you check in, and I mentored her, by the next Friday, you won't have bursitis anymore. And her doctor couldn't believe it either. She went carnivore.
And in 1 week, your prediction came true?
It wasn't 1 week. We talked on a Monday. I guaranteed her not that Friday, but the following Friday.
Mm.
So she still drinks coffee. She won't give up coffee. And isn't that weird how you know that something is detrimental, but you just refuse to give it up? So I don't argue with people anymore. I used to have this saying that, the first rule of the carnivore club is don't talk about carnivore. I just can't help it because I believe that all immune diseases, I seriously believe that they can be improved upon. I just do. Another friend of mine, same thing. She had different things wrong, and I guaranteed her the same thing. I'm telling you, if you try this 2 weeks from now, you'll thank me later, which is what happened to me. In 2 weeks, I felt miraculously better.
Yeah. Um, so how like, what does a day of eating look like for you?
So this morning, well, I just came off of a 43-hour fast this morning. I only eat on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Then Saturday and Sunday, that fast goes 24 hours, but I normally do a 42-hour fast. Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, no eating at all. And then and between days would probably be a 24-hour. So this morning I broke a 43-hour fast with egg, ground beef, fried eggs, pork rinds. The pork rinds were actually, it was like a taco salad almost. And the pork rinds were my shell. And normally it's hamburger or steak or hamburger. It never ever ever gets boring. There's always plenty to eat. In the fridge I have pickled eggs. I boiled them and I put them inside pickle juice, and they stay there so that if I have to run out in a hurry and I don't have a bacon candy, I can grab 2 eggs and go. I also drink lots and lots of water, um, sparkling water, and that's it. Beef, butter, eggs, and bacon. Once they told me, well, Dr. Berry, the thing that I didn't know was I thought that with Dr. Atkins that I was so limited. When Dr. Berry said beef, bacon, butter, eggs, my mind opened. And think about it, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. That once I had the formula, all I had to do was plug it in place. I can eat eggs maybe 15 different ways. The eggs that are holding right now, the boiled eggs, if I wanted to put a little bit more apple cider vinegar on there, it would give it a whole nother taste. The carnivore butter, I have 16-ounce jars of carnivore butter, beef broth that I made from scratch. It's unlimited. It's unlimited. And when I tell people, "Oh, well, I can't do it," you know what? You're right. You can't. You're right. You're absolutely right. You can't. And something so easy was so effective.
Mm. So in the days that you are eating, like, are you just eating once, or you're eating whenever you feel hungry?
I'm normally not hungry, to be honest with you. For example, today is Thursday. On Tuesdays, when I broke the fast on Tuesday, which was a 42, it was 42 on the dot. I had one meal, and that lasted until today. Lots of water, salt, hot salted water does the trick a lot. And then when I start to eat, absolutely, it's either one, maybe two. Um, and while I was waiting for you, I ran out and I got I got these chomps bars. Do you know what they are? Chomps.
No,
It's
is
a
it
beef
like
jerky.
beef
In
jerky?
America,
Okay.
it's a beef jerky. And I ran out to get because I never want to run out of food. I'm still very much aware that I have an addiction to food. So I keep lots of everything all the time. So I ran out and I'm good to go for now.
And, is your husband doing this? Is he eating
No,
differently?
no. And he said that he's not interested. And that's okay too.
Do you get any within the community you live in, like, are people kind of saying, how come you're looking so healthy? How come you're looking so well?"
Yes. So there are these ladies that I walk with sometimes that walk throughout the development, and every time they see me, they go, "You're even smaller than you were the last time." And they remember when I first started fasting. They remember me in the exercise classes. They remember when I'd be huffing and puffing, trying to keep up with them as we walked. I no longer have that problem. And I even discussed with them again, I have to shut down when they shut down. Oh, I couldn't do that. You're right. You can't. So then I go on to another subject. A very dear friend of mine said that you do know that you're killing yourself, as she's looking very drawn because she is vegan. Yeah, yeah. And I get lockjaw like, so which one of us, because what if? Just what if I'm right? And again, that's what brought me to carnivore, to try carnivore. I will in some of the groups, and I'm not really sure if it happened in our group, my group with you, that someone said, "Would you try the GLP-1s along with carnivore?" And absolutely not. I would never, ever, ever consider drugs again for the simple reason all the antibiotics that I had throughout my life, weight loss drugs, I took the HGH shots or whatever that was, the phentermine. I'd gone through that. I'd gone through, I don't know how many, more than 40. If I can tell you that the first diet I ever went on was when I was 16 years old, and I bought these pills called Dexatrim. That was way back in the day. But even more so, I can remember my mom always being on a diet. My grandmother was 300 pounds. She was always on a diet, and she took these little candy like like a Jolly Rancher. They were called AIDS, AIDS. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I've had other people tell me about this as well, yeah.
Oh wow. So yes, and my grandmother, she was over 300 pounds. What happened was I'd watch them do the same thing. And then when my grandmother went into a nursing home, she was the healthiest one there because she walked every day. She passed away at 99 years old. She walked every day. The funny thing about it was she stopped eating. She was a natural faster. And then when I put two and two together, and like my BFF's brother said to me just the other day, when you know, you know. I didn't know that I didn't know. So I continued to diet and diet and diet and diet. But the answer was always there. I watched Granny. fast. I watched Granny exercise, and she was 99 years old. What's the difference here? Who's right?
Mm.
What if I'm right? What if I'm right? And it just so happened that this time I was right.
Mm. Well, that's the thing when people say, "Oh, you're gonna kill yourself," it feels like, well, I think I was gonna kill myself, my body would be giving me some kind of signals that I would not be feeling as good as I am.
We're right. I think we're on to something. As a matter of fact, another one of my friends, we're accountability partners as well, that in 2021, she ran across a video that's talked about sugar in the industry. I was already fasting. I hadn't found carnivore yet. And she says, "So what are you doing?" So then she became my accountability partner in fasting, just not carnivore, because she won't hear of it either. Several of my friends have told me, you need lots of fruit, you need lots of veggies. And still today, she breaks her fasts with vegetables. And she just, sugar in your eyes. Think about vegetables. So she still won't hear that vegetables are trying to kill me. What if I'm right? What if I'm right?
Yeah. So if someone came to you that was open to the idea of doing carnivore and said, "All right, Temple, tell me what I need to do to maximize my chances of success with this," what would you tell them?
I tell them the same to start with, why do you need to do it? Here's and it may sound like a cliche, because I remember watching in one of the groups an 80-year-old, she's maybe 84, 85 now, but when she was 79, she started to fasting 2 times a week for 42 hours each time. And I thought, that's ridiculous. That's an awful lot for an 79 years old. And I didn't say it out loud, but I watched and other people asked her, don't you think that's a lot? Well, we already know what didn't work. So let me try something else. So that's what I started doing. I tried something else. And the video that my BFF sent to me was the video that talked about sugar in your eyes, glaucoma, sugar in your blood, diabetes, sugar, the different places, and how sugar is it'll be the bane of our existence if we don't get rid of it. So the 80-year-old that I had been watching, when she got, and she calls herself a sugarholic. That's what I am. That's what I was. I would tell the person, figure out what it is that you're, I call it the end game. What's your end game? What do you think that this should look like at the end of where you are? Well, to me, there is no end. For carnivore, this is what I will be doing the rest of my life because I know what the alternative is. So I would tell the person to determine why it is that you want to do what you're doing, because the two BFFs that I've just told you about, they went back to doing what it was that they did, and now they've come full circle. So tell me again. So I tell them the same thing that I'm telling you. When you know, you know. And think about how this sounds. It sounds insane. It's the cliche. If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you have. So I wanted my teeth to be whitened. And my BFF's brother, he was a dental tech in the military. And I'll never forget that he said, well, you do realize that every time you use the trays to whiten your teeth and then you go back to drinking coffee, hmm, think about how insane that is. You want your teeth white, but you still want to drink coffee. And he told me about a patient that was wearing the trays, and she was smoking a cigarette. Think about Your mouth just fell open, Dave. Yes, think of it. That's insane. So that's what I was doing, and that's what I would be doing if I went back to not eating carnivore. So the people who ask me, I tell them, listen, this is a lifestyle. This is a way that you have to live. You have to embrace it. You need to understand that if it's a quid pro quo. If you do this, then this will happen. I can't afford to go blind. I don't have the luxury of having false teeth later in life. I just don't. I want all my teeth when I leave here. I want to look good. I want to feel great. And carnivore is giving me just that. I think that I would also tell anyone, do your research and see if it's the right thing for you. Just because it's the right thing for me and millions of others, it may not be the right thing for you. But again, if you say you can't do it, then you can't.
Yeah. Um, so Temple, if people wanna reach out to you, do you have any way of getting in contact? Any social media?
Actually, my husband and I own a product and promotional services. We own a company and it's called New Vision Inc. And the vision, we named it New Vision because I was retiring at the time, and I've been retired for 17 years now. He just retired about 3 years ago. And at that time, I was diagnosed with glaucoma. So vision, we put two eyes on it because I prayed that one day I'm going to get my sight back. And the new vision, the way of seeing things differently, I need two eyes. So new vision is NEWVII SION Inc. New Vision Inc. And again, New Vision Inc. at gmail.com is my email address. And again, I don't do this to get anything. I do this to give. And that's why I was so excited to come on and speak with you about it because I'm so excited that something has worked and it continues to work and it should be shared. This should be, and it is a very well kept secret, but it's free. And because it's free, your mouth just fell open again, Dave. So again, because it's free, think about it. GLP-1s, it costs. Everything else, it costs. The next best diet, it costs. But because fasting is free, carnivore is free, we have to eat anyway. It, we don't do it to get anything out of it. I don't think that I'll ever sell memberships or anything for service for coaching. No, that's not what he and I are all about. We do it. We give just for the sake of giving to inspire others to give. We're givers. So, but yes, I can be reached there at any time, and I'm in the group for questions or comments or whatever. But again, it's free. Just stop eating. Just eat meat. Don't eat
Right.
vegetables.
Nice. No worries. I'll add your, email into the show notes. Temple, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I really appreciate your time.
The pleasure's all mine. Thank you so much, Dave.